so disgustingly filthy.
Todd Chrisley just did his first interview from prison, and he revealed some really shocking things, from mistreatment allegations to starving inmates. Todd's claims about the prison he's in will leave you speechless. For a while, we've been seeing some really crazy claims and reports about Todd's prison. Savannah has made it clear that the conditions there are just awful, but we never heard anything from Todd himself until now. Brian Eaton managed to secure a phone interview with Todd for News Nation, and hearing Todd describe what his life is like now was shocking. Todd claimed that he's being mistreated in prison, but it's not just him, because all the prisoners have to deal with something really disgusting, and that's the prison food. According to Todd, the food they get is expired.
It's out of date by at minimum a year.
But that's actually not the most concerning part, because the food supposedly isn't just out of date, it's also allegedly contaminated, because a lot of it has come into contact with wild animals. Todd claimed that there are rats in the storage facility, but there's more. He also said this:
"You've got squirrels in the storage facility where the food is."
That's obviously disgusting, but it still gets worse. Todd also described one incident when an animal's body actually fell on the food. He alleged that the prison had a problem with black mold and they had to get rid of it. Apparently, some of it was in the food storage room too, but instead of removing the food from the prison staff allegedly just covered it up with plastic. What happened next was disgusting. Todd claimed that the people dealing with the black mold found the body of a cat in the ceiling, and supposedly it then dropped down on top of the food. You'd think this would mean they'd get rid of that food. Obviously, something like that isn't safe, but according to Todd, they still get served food that's even contaminated, which if true is just so dangerous and horrible. Todd also alleged that the prison is literally starving the inmates. According to him, there are men who are getting only about 1,000 calories a day. That's obviously a really scary thought. The recommended daily calorie intake for adult men is about 2,500. So if what Todd is saying is true, then the prisoners are getting less than half of the amount of food they should be eating on a daily basis. So they might actually really be starving. Todd also claimed that he tries to eat food that doesn't come from the contaminated storage facility. Instead, he apparently buys as much food from the commissary as he can. He said that he eats tuna and peanut butter, which is how he gets his protein. And he also apparently makes his own pasta salad with pasta from the commissary. That seems like a really good solution. I mean, I think it's completely understandable that he doesn't want to eat the food that most likely came into contact with mold and wild animals. And since Todd obviously has money, he can afford to buy things from the commissary. Although, from what he said, this has been getting harder and harder, and supposedly that's because there's a new prison warden in Todd's prison, and allegedly she doesn't like Todd at all. Todd claimed that this new warden has introduced new rules about the commissary. Basically, she puts restrictions on how much food people can buy per week. According to Todd, he used to be able to buy 12 packs of tuna a week, but then the amount was cut down to 6, and later it became 3. Todd said that the warden didn't really give a real reason for this. She allegedly just told him that commissary is a privilege, not a right. Todd seems to think that the prison staff is trying to humble him. Allegedly, there are even recordings of staff members saying that he needs to be humbled, but it gets even worse. Todd also said this:
"There was a photograph taken of me while I was sleeping and sent to my daughter."
Allegedly, the person who sent this photo to Savannah did this as a form of extortion. They supposedly asked for $2,600 a month in exchange for Todd's safety, which is just really scary and creepy. We've actually heard of this before too, because not too long ago, in the summer of 2023, the Chrisley's lawyer, Jay Sargent, actually confirmed this. He said that someone took a photo of Todd while he was asleep, and he also said that Todd suspected that someone was getting rid of his mail. At the time, this seemed a little confusing. Why would someone want or need to destroy Todd's mail? It just seemed like a really weird thing for the prison staff to allegedly do, but at this point, it is starting to make a lot more sense. Obviously, all of these are just Todd's claims. It's possible that none of this is true, but I can't help but wonder, why would Todd make all these crazy allegations against the prison if none of it was true at all? Why would he make this stuff up? That would obviously put him in a super uncomfortable position with the prison staff, and it would make his life a lot harder. That's probably probably happen anyway, but at least if you think that Todd's telling the truth, it kind of makes sense why he would risk this. It would be crazy for him to just be lying about all of this. He would be putting himself at risk for no reason at all. And that just doesn't seem like something Todd would do. He also made another claim that was pretty crazy. The interview was obviously conducted remotely, it didn't happen in person, and there's a reason for that. Apparently, the journalist Brian Eaton did try to actually meet up with Todd, but unfortunately, that didn't work out. Brian supposedly got permission from the Chrisley's lawyer to interview Todd in prison, but despite that, he wasn't able to do that because apparently he was denied access to the prison. This was allegedly because there were some security risks that the prison staff were worried about. But what were those security risks? That honestly seems like a pretty weak excuse, and Todd seemed to think so too. He said that the reason why Brian wasn't allowed to visit Todd in prison wasn't because of the possible security risk, it was because of something much more sinister.
They don't want you in here where you can see what's really going on.
Still, Brian was able to get his questions to Todd through the Chrisley's lawyer, so the interview happened anyway, despite the prison's attempts to stop it from happening. I mean, obviously it is possible that there were some security risks actually involved in this. Maybe Todd's wrong about what he said and Brian wasn't let in for legitimate reason, but with everything else Todd has said about the conditions in the prison, I feel like it would make a lot of sense for them to try to keep the press out. Brian and News Nation also reached out to the prison. They asked them about Todd's allegations, and shockingly, they actually got a response. Apparently, Brian and News Nation were told that the prisoners were getting nutritious food. They also claimed that the prison had up-to-date facilities, so it seems like they just disagreed with pretty much everything that Todd said. That's not exactly surprising. I mean, even if Todd's allegations are true, it would be crazy for the prison to admit that, because I think it could possibly get them in trouble. If Todd's claims are true, then the prison is putting the inmates' lives in danger. They're feeding them contaminated foods, and they're also starving them in the process. That's horrible. No person should be treated like this. On the one hand, for the sake of the prisoners, I really hope that Todd's claims are actually not true, but on the other hand, I can't help but wonder, why would he lie? Like I said, it just wouldn't make a lot of sense for him to make this stuff up. He's probably made himself a target now. Why would he risk that if none of this was true? I just feel like it would make sense if Todd was telling the truth. But what do you guys think? Do you think that the conditions in Todd's prison are really that bad? If not, then why would he make this stuff up? Let me know in the comments below.